So I recently stumbled across the University of Houston's Diversity Resource Guide. It is a 105-page Word document full of activities designed to be passed out to and completed by students of apparently any age, because the news story that caused controversy where I found this was a middle school math class that had been forced to do one of these activities called Whom to Leave Behind, an exercise that gives you a list of diverse individuals and makes you select which 8 out of 12 get on a spaceship to another planet to escape Earth's imminent destruction, allowing 12-year-olds to play racist God and decide who lives and who dies based on their ethnicity, sexuality, gender, career, and criminality. Truly a fun, thought-provoking test for budding young minds, and definitely relevant to a math class somehow. I'm gonna get to that one in a second because, like I said, this document has 105 pages of fun little icebreakers, and by the way, they are literally called icebreakers in the document. Like, here, let me introduce myself by letting you know exactly where I stand on every type of person imaginable. This episode's gonna be fun. Feel free to play along at home. I'll link it in the description if you want to see what I'm talking about while I'm talking about it. So the first noteworthy thing here is called How Comfortable Am I? On page 8, which gives you a list of specific situations and asks you to rate how comfortable you'd be with them happening, from a scale of 1 to 4, 4 being completely comfortable, and 1 being a neon sign over your head that signals your apparent bigotry to every radical antenna and broadcast range. It starts off subtle with, you visit your grandparent at an assisted living community. It's a safe start, because even if inside you're like, oh, I fucking hate grandpas, nobody knows how to react to that sentiment, so if you give it a 1, they'll just assume you don't want to see them in a deteriorated state, or you don't want to think about them dying soon or something. Then we get right into it. Situation 2 is, a friend invites you to go to a gay bar. That's a 1 from me, dog. I have been hit on by gay guys before in school, and it doesn't get any less uncomfortable. Being hit on by someone of your proper orientation that you don't like is awkward enough. Why amplify the percentage chance of you being interested back at them to 0? I'm anxious enough at a straight bar. I don't need to trespass on gay alpha male hunting grounds so I can freeze every time I hear a twig snap. Situation 3 is just a continuation of this nightmare. It says, you go to the gay bar, and a person of the same sex asks you to dance. That's a 1 from me, dog! First of all, I don't dance unless it's choreographed in a musical I'm in, which maybe purports that I do in fact belong at this gay bar, but regardless, if a dude tries to grind on me while a Nicki Minaj song is playing, I'm gonna have to run away. Situation 5. Your new roommate is Palestinian and Muslim. If he leaves his laptop open, I'm gonna glance at his search history. Sorry, better to be cautious than smithereens. Racial profiling catches criminals when used in tandem with other profiling. It's a foundation for behavior. It's not completely determinate, but it's not irrelevant either. We didn't start specially screening Muslims until a few of them did 9/11. If some fuckers from China did that shit, you best believe we'd be giving Chinese people the majority of pat-downs. And probably Japanese too, since we can't tell the difference. Situation 7. A group of young black men are walking toward you on the street. Time to cross the street. A lot of black people will tell you the same thing. A group of young men is potentially dangerous, whatever their race is. Situation 8. Your history instructor speaks with a pronounced Vietnamese accent. Hope we're not studying the Vietnam War. I don't think I'm ready for the hot takes. Some of these are just insanely unlikely. Situation 9. Your assigned lab partner is a fundamentalist Christian. Well, those guys don't believe in science, so I don't know what he's doing in a lab to begin with. That's a 1 from me because I don't want an F. It's obvious that in order to be sufficiently woke, you have to be able to answer a 4 on every single one of these prompts. Situation 10. Your new roommate is Jewish. Good luck getting his half of the rent, lol. Hope you don't share a bathroom. Situation 12. You arrive at church to discover your new pastor is a woman. Whoa, that's unacceptable. You're telling me this walking rib is gonna try to teach me about God? Spawn of the first act of disobedience gonna stand up there and make me eat the apple? When hell freezes over. I wish I was in school when shit like this was passed around. I mean, it's great to make fun of, but this is nothing but a bias detector being passed around schools. All it will succeed in doing is making people retreat even further into their group identities, since that's all this is looking at. And how do you grade this? If you're racist, do you get an F? A+ for lying out your ass to avoid conflict and just putting what you assume they'll think you should say? This next one might be my favorite. Situation 13. Your dentist is HIV positive. Excuse me? Why do I know that? Did he tell me? Before he puts sharp objects in my mouth, is he like, just so you know, I have AIDS? Is my shiny new mouth supposed to suck his dick afterwards? That's the only situation I can think of where that information would be relevant. After he's done with my teeth, I'm like, thanks, you did pretty good for a guy with AIDS. Situation 14. Your women's studies instructor is a Muslim woman who wears a headscarf and full-length robe. Well, your first mistake is enrolling in a women's studies class, especially taught by someone who comes from a culture that doesn't exactly cater to women's freedoms. I feel like the jokes are being written for me at this point. Situation 17. Your assigned partner for a project in statistics has a learning disability. Well, statistically, we're gonna fail. He should learn to enroll in a special needs class. There are 41 of these. This is just one activity, and I've spent so much time discussing it already, but it's so fun. Situation 19. The woman sitting next to you on a plane weighs 250 pounds. I hope the rest of the passengers are on the other side of the plane to balance that shit out. It's easy, but easy jokes shouldn't be forgotten. This one baffles me. Situation 21. Your math tutor is a 62-year-old woman. Who could possibly be like, absolutely not, an experienced woman teaching me math? Not on God's green earth, bitch. Situation 23. Your mother comes out to you. As what? An avid reader? An otaku? Dude, if your birth mom tells you she's gay, that should fuck you up. That means you were conceived during a lie. Your existence is predicated on repression. Sit with that. Situation 25. Your brother's new girlfriend is a single mother on welfare. You can just say she's black. It's okay. I like how the test is even trying to be PC to itself. Situation 31. Your black roommate gets a full tuition minority scholarship. I'm sure it was well deserved, seeing as he worked so hard at being black and all. Situation 36. One of your group presentation members has a speech impediment. We'll make sure they're the one in the back holding up the board. Do we have to let them talk for inclusion? That's like having someone in a wheelchair on the track team. You're either cheating or you're gonna get up and fail. There's way more, but I'm done now. Moving on. So back to that doomsday thing, which is on page 11 if you're following along. The way they did it in the middle school based on the instructions was that on your own, you're supposed to select 8 out of 12 diversity box-checking people to save, and then come together as a group and deliberate until everyone agrees on a final 8. No majority rule, no vote. First of all, I don't know if you've ever heard of jurors in a court of law, but those motherfuckers can deliberate for days at a time on one person's societal worth. How do you expect a classroom full of middle schoolers to pass judgment on 12 before the solstice rolls over? Secondly, you can't not be racist here, because race is the determining descriptive factor of half of these choices. An African-American militant leader, a Native American manager that doesn't speak English, a 12-year-old Asian boy. How is something like this supposed to bring people together? I think the female Muslim student should be saved. No, fuck her, save the Hispanic priest who hates gays. The major problem with this exercise that probably no one ever talks about is there aren't enough of each race to salvage the ethnicity for future generations. These are the only 8 people who will be alive when the earth dies. If you don't have 2 blacks, 2 Hispanics, 2 Asians, etc. to all mate within their own groups, you will lose cultures completely. It's funny because if you look at all 12 choices, the white people aren't described as white, as if they're not part of it. It'll just say, novelist with physical disability, and then you assume he's white because they didn't specify like they did everyone else. The funny thing about that is that all the white people have fundamental flaws that are bad for breeding, like homosexuality or substance abuse. So regardless of who you save, say goodbye to the white race forever. You're gonna have white people arguing against their own race's inclusion because the test is set up to make them look bad, and other white people doubling down on letting negative traits on board because diversity outweighs merit to them. And I shouldn't have to say this, but diversity includes white people. But yeah, this document is a treasure trove of delightful and in some cases disturbing tribalism. Go to page 50 and look at the albatross section. Stuff like this can get really fucking weird. I'm glad this was a controversy in that middle school, and I'm glad parents complained, because you're teaching children to only ever see themselves as a member of their particular race, that it's 100% paramount to who they are, and it's all anyone else will ever see them as. In all these surface-level exercises, there's no room for individuality, and in the other activities I didn't mention that do touch on individuality, they're revolved around accusing other people of systemic discrimination as a means of expressing it. You're probably not hiring me because I'm a woman, but I'm much more than just just a woman. That's not helpful. You can't have a meritocracy where people recede into their identities whenever things don't go their way. I am strong, I am qualified, I am valuable as an individual, but if you don't hire me, it's because I'm Mexican. Page 32 to 47, they dedicate 15 pages to this shit, encouraging people to act out situations of blatant and way over-exaggerated discrimination towards each other to prove a point about how the world works? Yeah, it ain't fucking like that. Page 80, there's an exercise called the Perfect University, which tasks participants with conceptualizing the perfect university. In this exercise, participants will have to deal with 4 different roles: police, bankers, city council, and rebels, as they attempt to achieve their goal. Unbeknownst to them, they've been given categories based on their race and sexuality, and will be treated different as such, with white people obviously getting preferential treatment because that's definitely how universities work. White people get more money to start with, they don't get harassed by the police, they get easy loans from the bank, while everyone else has to struggle because institutional inequality is a nationwide pandemic that isn't exaggerated or scapegoated for personal failures in the least. Fuck this shit. No wonder nobody wants to go to college, where if you're going to be discriminated against, it'll be for your politics, not the color of your skin, unless you're taking a nap in the common area. I mean, who knows what you're plotting while being black and sleeping. Those are severely isolated incidents, though. Like all these stories of white people calling the cops on black people for being black, there's been, 3 of them in the news? And the argument that there's way more than the news reports on doesn't work when you know the media digs like their lives depend on it to find more examples of that to shove down our throats and purport the narrative that all white people are ugly fat ladies who hate Negroes. Even if there were 100 of them a year. That's so few! 100 racist white ladies per year in a nation of 326 million people. You can't get lower than that. It's a non-issue. Not for the people who have to deal with it, but it's small enough that you can't blame it on anything but bad luck. It's not indicative of a larger problem when the numbers aren't large. There are more pedophiles than racist white ladies, I guarantee you, and we don't think pedophilia is a systemic national problem anywhere other than the Catholic Church. It's a big problem there because it's a congregation of them, but outside that, it's pretty sparse. I've got one more activity to outline for you guys, here on page 88, called target/non-target. I like this one because in the rules it says don't laugh, so you know it's gonna be hilarious. What this is there's a target area on the floor, and one topic at a time the instructor will say an identifiable thing, like vegetarian, and then all vegetarians will go stand in the target and maintain eye contact with everyone else. Then the instructor will read from a script example, and it literally goes like this: vegetarians are hippies. Vegetarians are fakers and hypocrites. People who are vegetarian are hypersensitive and oversensitive. Then they say, targets, look at your non-targets. Non-targets, look at your targets. And then I assume everyone bursts out laughing anyway. I love this because it allows the instructor to get creative with their own insults. I would love to be that instructor. Could all Mexicans please enter the target area? Mexicans are lazy. Mexicans paint houses for like a nickel and then murder joggers. Mexicans speak in a thick, nearly impossible to understand accent when they train new white people for cooking jobs. Mexicans fix cars all day and then come home to watch Dragon Ball Z, and instead of taking out the trash, they dig holes in the backyard and bury it. Targets, look at your non-targets. Non-targets, look at your targets. I'm smiling the whole time. People are like, did you go off script? I'm like, no, it says all that right here. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.